Welcome everyone to the show, Combustible Elements, real talk for real people. Here we try to put different ideas and perspectives together in a pot, heat it up, and get an explosion of knowledge and understanding. We understand that problems can only be fixed starting from the bottom to the top, building a great foundation for change and improvement. I'm Big Mel, and I'm joined by Ruben, aka the Monarch, and Aaron, the Hitman. Let's get
I want to thank everybody for joining us for Combustible Elements. I'm Big Mel. I'm joined by Ruben the Monarch, Aaron the Hitman. A little under the weather, a little tired today. Ain't got that usual energy, but we got a topic that might light me up. Our topic this week, and before we even get into that, like, subscribe, comment, get back to us, give us your opinions on the shows, what you want to hear about. If you want to be a guest, we're here. We've been doing this for a while. You know the routine. Excuse me. But today's topic is a serious one. What exactly do we owe the generations behind us? What are we responsible for? What should we leave them? And this particular topic is going to veer towards young Black men too, because they have an opinion of what we should be doing too. And they've been vocal about that opinion. So I want to start the show, but I'm not going to start it. I'm going to let somebody else start it. I'm going to let Aaron start. That's why he laughed. He must have knew I was going to call his name. And oh, P.S., you going to see me lifting up a silver can. It's not that cheap beer. It's an energy drink. You're going to see me drinking it while we talking. Aaron, what do you feel about what should we be leaving behind to the younger generation?
I feel like that we should be leaving behind knowledge and information that can uplift and help the younger generation. Um, Even discipline and structure we should be leaving behind for the younger generation, that being young Black men, white men, just the next generation, even women uh need to learn how structure looks. Men are supposed to hold structure, so I think that'll show them what they should be looking for in a leader or a husband of their household, and it would teach men or the younger men how to have structure and discipline in their household. But yeah, just knowledge, wealth, and things of that nature is what we should be leaving to the younger generation.
That's an interesting answer that you just gave, or actually, it's one of your words that you used in that answer made me think about something, which I'm going to bring up. Uh, but for me, we should be leaving. I'm gonna put it out there from the beginning. As a parent, as a husband, as a father, as a co-worker, as a mentor, because Aaron knows we've mentored kids in some of the activities that we've done. We've done well in those activities and those people in our immediate surroundings. We've done well. We took our responsibilities well. We acted on our responsibility and we were conscientious. With that being said, as a community, as a society, we done failed the next generation. The generation before us failed my generation, your generation, and previous generations. Why? Because society likes to pass problems on to the next generation. Our problems become their problems. Now, some of these problems we can fix, some of these problems we don't know how to fix. Some of these problems we patchwork. If a bridge is falling down and you don't fix the bridge, you're going to have a problem with that bridge as time goes on. It's just a reality. And that's the same way when it comes to like society, relationships. Our world is always changing because technology. The world moves much faster. People make decisions much faster. You travel and learn new concepts from different places. You have more information. The mind is ever expanding. But as a society, the generations that came before every generation has let that generation or those generations Damn. Does that mean that someone wasn't a good father, husband, mentor, whatever? And from a male point of view, a good mother, sister, friend, boss? No. It just means that as a whole, we was fucked up. We worried about our welfare instead of protecting the future generation's welfare. We are the most intelligent creature on this planet, but yet we are the most selfish creatures on this planet. And we look more so towards, maybe it's because we understand the concept of time. We look more so towards now instead of in the future. Ruben, how do you feel about this topic?
I mean, both you and Aaron already kind of hit it. So I'm basically going to be redundant as far as saying we definitely owe the younger generation everything. We owe them knowledge. We owe them, understanding. We owe them wisdom. A lot of times, the younger generation feels as though what they're going through is a new thing. Whatever hardship they might be going through, they're the only ones that's ever been through it, because the older generation, myself included, sometimes we tend to like not properly express or articulate certain things to the younger generation, and because of that loss of that miscommunication, a lot of things get lost in translation. I can speak for myself. A lot of times I try to explain some stuff to my son, and not that he doesn't understand, but like I was trying to remind him. I'm like, look, the gap between me and you is only 20 years. It seems like it's a long time, but it's not. Like it's like a lot of your peers have parents who have at least a 30-year gap. Like my youngest son, me and him have a 30-year gap. So had he been my first child, how I'm raising my oldest would be completely different with how I'm going to raise my youngest, for several reasons. I was a lot younger when I had my oldest. So now my mindset was different. My finances were different. It just, there are a lot of ways and things that I was doing that I'm not going to do today. Whereas like if somebody, like as a teenager, you tend to think that like you're the only one that have your problems. Like if you're going through a breakup, or if you're going through some type of like difficulty, you feel as though like the world is collapsing against you. Everybody's against you. Like the smallest thing is a big thing to you, because your life experiences haven't been, they might only amount to maybe 13 years, 14 years, 15 years, 16 years. Once you double that, you reach your 30 mark or your 40 mark or even your 50 mark. Now those things that were a big deal and are a big deal, not to say that they're not, you start to understand when somebody's telling you it's not that big of a deal, because the longer time goes, the more things you go through, the more hardship you go through, the more lessons you learn over time. You can look back and say, wow, that that thing that was really stressing me, that problem that was really big to me, now I am now bigger than that problem. So I say all this to say, it's important for us to teach and communicate to the younger generation how to properly deal with issues, and not just saying, just listen to me and it's gonna be all right, but just figuring out and learning ways to articulate why, things are gonna be fine, why, things are happening, because history is really the best teacher for everything.
Okay, so I'm going to say this portion before I start digging into a group. I'm going to say a group because I hate to say it's all of them. See, because history tells us a lot of times people think one entire group, everybody in that particular confines are all the same, and we're not. But I am going to dig into somebody, and I'm going to start with the youth. And I'm going to start with the youth. But before I dig, I'm going to say, I have faith in the youth. I have faith that they're going to fix some of the problems we left behind. I have faith that they're going to keep on carrying existence, and they're going to do a better job than we did on the whole, as far as collectively, not individually, collectively as a society. But there are a lot of youths, especially young men, don't want to put no connotations on it, but especially young men who think that we should be doing more. But the more they think, it's just anything that they, at that time, benefits them. You should let me go for not doing this because you see I'm trying to do the right thing, whatever that may be. You should be trying to do the right thing. You should look out for me because I'm a young version of you. You're not a young version of me. You're a young version of yourself. We have similarities, but that does not mean we are the same. Now, any struggles that a young person in this generation goes through, and I'm going to say young Black men, their job market is more cluttered, inflation, prices are more relevant. They hold degrees to a higher standard. So on the financial end, the back end, it's worse for them than it was for us. However, when I was a young Black man, it was hard to get anything. And my father, your father had even a harder time. Their fathers had a harder time. Their fathers was just removed from slavery, so they had a harder time. So when I hear these things, Ruben said it himself, wisdom. I like to say that as a Black man, when I mentor people or when I'm mentoring Black males or white males for that matter, the greatest gift that I have to give you is the wisdom of the ages. And I use the term ages because when you give somebody wisdom, it's not just from your experience. It's from what you learn from somebody else that partook that wisdom to you. And they got that wisdom from somebody else that may have been older. So we are passing on the wisdom of the ages. And that's the greatest gift that we can give young people today. But now, here's the thing. We didn't listen to everything that we were told when we were younger. They're not going to listen to everything that they're told. But that's the biggest gift that we can give you. So instead of thinking that we have to give you what you feel like you need at that time, we can only give you what we can give you at that time. You know, me helping you out with anytime you need some money, that's not helping you out. Me helping you go find a job, you have to find that job. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can help you if I get to know you, but if I don't really know you, the biggest gift I can give you in a common day just coming across you is my wisdom, and it's up to you to listen to it. Do you guys feel like when you pass this wisdom that is just jumped over? I mean, me personally, I feel a lot of times when I pass this wisdom, and I've mentored some teenagers too. Some of them listened to me, some of them didn't. But it just seems like a lot of times when you don't give people what they feel like they want, they jump over what you do give them. And like I said, the greatest gift you can give somebody is wisdom. How do you guys feel about that when I put it that way?
I mean, unfortunately, just like when we were teenagers, well, I can't speak for y'all, but teenagers in general, when they're at a certain age, they feel like they know everything. Even some adults just feel like they know everything. So when you try to speak life into them, when you try to give them wisdom, when you try to get them knowledge, it's like, I already know this information, I already know how this going to go. And they kind of bypass it. But something that I learned, and it was hard for me to learn it, but just planting the seed, because you have no control over with what anybody does with the information and wisdom and knowledge that you give them. All you can do is plant the seed and hope that they hold on to that and let it flourish. But you know, most times when you're talking to somebody, especially face to face, and you can see their body language and their facial expressions, they probably ain't listening to half the things you're saying, especially depending on what the conversation is. When you have a conversation about money, especially if it's somebody that you're close to. And I understand mentoring kids that aren't yours, but mentoring your own kids, which is called being a parent, I guess. But mentoring your own kids is kind of like, well, I just want you to provide for me. Yeah, I'm providing for you. You got a house, you don't have nothing to really worry about, but what you're worried about are things that you really had to work for. So now I'm going to have to teach you work ethic in order to get the things that you want. Not me just keep giving you money. Like you said, if I'm filling out your work applications for you and I'm doing all your resumes for you and sending it in, all you doing is reaping the benefit from it. And you're going to work, and maybe you're doing the work, maybe you're not. But if you leave that job or get fired from that job, then I'm out here doing the footwork for you again, the leg work for you. So just teaching them and giving them the wisdom and knowledge. It's hard sometimes to force them to do what you want them to do. So I learned a while ago. It took me a couple years to understand it as well, especially when I became a life coach and a mentor. It's like putting out videos, talking to people. It's like, you got to listen to what I'm saying and you got to apply it to your life. But everybody's not going to do that. They may listen to you, talk for an hour or so, and then not do anything you tell them to do, or not tell them to do, but anything that you try to give them information to help build themselves up, they might not do any of that stuff. So just planting that seed and hoping that they hold on to it and let it grow and flourish is how I take it now, how I do things now.
I want to respond to that before Ruben answers, and I'll make it real quick. I like the plant that's the seed analogy. That's a good analogy. But here's the thing that I see now, and it doesn't matter whether you're a teen, you're adult, you're a child. When somebody gives you that wisdom, as you said, a lot of times you can't use it in that moment, or you don't want to do it in that moment, but you listen to it. But maybe at some point, it may be a year later, a month later, a week later, 10 years later, when you come across a situation that wisdom could have been inputted in, you say to yourself, they were right. And then you start using that wisdom. The problem that we're having now is people just, like you said, they don't even act like they listening to you. They not paying attention to what you said. And they don't admit that what you say was something that they could have used. So therefore, they never use that wisdom, and then they never understand why they get caught in the same problem. As far as being a parent, actually, I'm gonna leave that one alone right now. As far as being a parent, I'll go back to that. Go ahead, Ruben. I want to organize my thoughts a little bit better because I'm going to hurt somebody's feelings here.
Go ahead, Ruben. You gotta do that. I mean, so I'm gonna speak strictly from personal experiences for today. Like one of my kids, like when I talk to him, sometimes I feel like he's not even there, and that's just how he is, though. Like the information is seeping in. He's retaining it, but like if you just go on based off like somebody, like when you're talking to somebody, you're like, yo, look at me, I'm talking to you. Like you trying to give them specific directions to like pay attention. You would think as if like everything that you pouring in and you trying to teach him, he's not even there. When the reality of it is, it's all there. He's taking it, he's receiving it, he's using it, but not at the time that you think he's going to use it necessarily. Not like the time that you might be ready to pour the wisdom, the time you might be ready to give direction, the time you might be ready to be saying stuff. It's like he's in the whole other world. Whereas like for some time, if I didn't know him, if he wasn't my kid, like I'd be frustrated about it. But knowing him now, I'm like, oh, okay. I know you hear me. I know you understand what I'm saying. And I know you're getting this information. But right now, his mind is not at a place where it's like, okay, yeah, like he doesn't look like, he's not a robot where it's like, okay, I'm giving you information right now, waiting for information to be downloaded, blah, blah, blah. Like he gets it. And I think that's what happens with a lot of other kids too. Like a lot of times you try to push you're trying to give them certain knowledge, and like you expect, because you give them XYZ knowledge or XYZ wisdom or X and impose XYZ expectations on them, that they're gonna automatically do, you know, if you do X, Y, Z, then I expect A, B, C out of you. And it don't work out like that. The reason why it don't work out like that is because it's everyone move at their own pace. Everyone has their own timing. And having different kids and having each and every one of them have their own behaviors and having this particular one have that type of behavior helped me to learn and deal with other people as well. Because sometimes I might be ready to do something and I'm talking to somebody and it might not be a kid and I'm like, yo, I'm trying to do X, Y, Z. And when I'm ready to do something, that's when I'm ready to do it. So I'm ready to go. And if that person's not ready to go, then I'm like, all right, I'm just going to go ahead and go on without you. And it's not that that person doesn't want to go and they're not ready to go. It's just they're not ready to go right now. So with the youth, adults need to have that same level of understanding to say, okay, these are the things that I want to make sure that I pass down. These are the things I want to make sure that I instill in these kids. But also remember, like, they're not you. Even if they come from you, they're not you. And if they don't come from you, it takes even more patience and understanding to be like, all right, what best ways can I have to push on this information to make sure that they get this information, and when the time is right, they use that information, because they get it, they want it, but timing is everything when it comes to them.
Okay, so
I know you're about to go on, Mel, but I want to say something real quick because I was thinking about it while Ruben was talking, and then he kind of hit that point right at the end. But when you mentoring and when you teaching and when you just giving information and knowledge and wisdom, you also have to, on the back end of that, teach them how to apply it and then when and how to apply it. Because if you just give a whole bunch of information, I could tell you how to build an engine, but if I don't tell you exactly how to apply what part to what part, if I just say these are all the parts to build the engine and this will build you a Hemi engine, and you got to put the parts to that way, and these are the screws right here, I'm giving you all the information, I'm giving you all the knowledge, but I'm not telling you how to apply that and when to apply that. So like I said, on the back end of what Ruben was saying, like, you got to be patient with them, but then you also got to know the when and the how to teach them how to apply the knowledge or wisdom that you're giving them.
okay, so that's joining on the back end. I think I was very direct when I said that when you give them this information, my biggest concern wasn't that whether they were ingesting the information, because I believe people ingest most of the stuff that goes on around. They may not prioritize it, but I believe they hear you. However, my biggest point is later on down the line, because everybody doesn't take the information and use the information the way you would want it. And that's a good point, the way I would want it, that Ruben made, or how I would do it. But they do it and they adapt that wisdom to their life experiences. But if you can never admit that somebody has some valid information that may be a plus to you, then you're never going to adapt that information, and it's never going to be a positive product in your life. So let me rephrase it so it's no confusion. Just because you don't use it the way I would utilize it, you're not going to use it the way I utilize it, because let's face it, we learn more from our failures than our successes. So a person that told you what to do with your money after they lost a fortune, their value would be more beneficial than the person that tells you how to make money. Why? Because they know exactly where they fucked up at. And they'll be able to tell you directly, more so than the person. If they successful all the time, sometimes they may not know exactly what they did. It just worked out for them. You know what I mean? To Ruben's point, I think Ruben got a perfect scenario when he sit down there and he say, my son is listening to what I'm saying. It's just outwardly, he's looking like he's not paying attention, but he's ingesting all the information. That's always a plus. and he's going to use it when it's specific towards him, when he thinks he should use it. Well, that's how we learn. So you're doing a good job there, and he's doing a good job receiving the information, because you can give the information, but the person got to receive it. So he's doing a good job receiving the information too. So that's a win-win. Everybody is different. Everybody's not going to be like us or be like you, be like me. I don't expect everybody to do that. When I give information, it's in an effort to help somebody's life. So for all the young people that think that the old people just want to hear themselves talk, yes, we like to hear ourselves talk. However, sometimes we telling you stuff because we just want you to do well. And I think that's getting passed over when information is given. And in our society now, everybody's telling you to watch your back to a degree, which you should. But just because you need to watch your back sometimes doesn't mean you have to watch out for people all the time. It's a difference. Now, when Aaron was talking before, and it was two things that stuck out with me. The first thing, and maybe you guys can answer it. My generation, your generation, you two generation, we had leaders that represented the young people. And now those leaders are old. Who represents the young people in this generation? Like, who are they leaders? Who are they inspiration? And please don't say Kanye West or somebody like that.
Social media. I mean, one Kanye is a leader, and he does represent. I mean, whether you like him or not, I guess when we think about who's speaking for who, you know, do we have Malcolm X's and Dr. King's? Not necessarily, but we do have different people in the social media space who, at least from a social media point of view, they seem to be putting in the work or whatever. But everybody, for the most part, have their own angle, and they have their own. They have their own reasoning for why they're doing what they're doing. So some of it is pure, some of it is self promotion and so forth and so on. But do we have one specific, you know, figure that
don't even have to be one specific? Like, I can't come up with anybody, and that's what's bothering me. I mean, I'm not in that generation, so I could be totally wrong, but I cannot come up with anybody.
A lot of them are in the music. A lot of the ones that are basically directing and guiding the masses are doing music. Like the music.
I got one.
What?
Since you brought up music, I related that to basketball and LeBron James. He'll jump up and talk on social justice and racism and stuff like that on those platforms.
Right. He's done more of that as of late. That wasn't always the case early on in his career, but he's done more of that.
Change is always good. We never the same. You know what I'm saying?
But the thing is, people are more concerned to making themselves like wealthier, and you know, like, all right. So off topic, my son asked me the other day, you know, how come it seems to be like, you know, no, first he asked me, was the Queen of England a bad person? And my response to him was, why do you ask? Is it because it seems like a lot of people are rejoicing in her death? He's like, yeah. I'm like, well, it's a complicated answer. She wasn't necessarily a bad person, but she wasn't necessarily a good person either. Reason why, she had over 70 years of reign. And I can't pinpoint any particular time where it was like, yo, the things that she did completely changed, you know, things for the positive for a specific group of people that were not doing good prior to her doing that. Now, she's been a queen since she was, what, 20 years old?
25.
You know, she continued the status quo, but like the elite, you know, appreciated what she did. You know, if you were super wealthy and you had ties to her, then you appreciated, you know, she continued the money train coming. But her wealth alone could have stopped world hunger. Her wealth alone could have stopped a lot of the things that are going on in this world. Like, we don't lack for anything on this planet, but yet we do still in an odd way, shape, or form. Like, you talk about athletes, or you talk about rappers, and it has how they talk about killing, and they talk about murders. They talk about a lot of different violent things. Well, her regime, her reign, allowed a lot of that. Like the things that rappers get blamed for doing. A lot of people on Wall Street, and a lot of people, that have her background, a lot of people that are tied to her, and I want to even say her reign included slavery, manipulation, conquest, colonialization of different countries. You got China, you got Hong Kong, you got different places in India, you got hella territories in the Caribbean. A lot of those things happened during her reign. And,
no, a lot of those things happened before her reign.
But
before her reign.
But even then, as she came into power, she didn't renounce any of those things. She didn't necessarily stop it.
You realize it's her country, but she doesn't run the government. Parliament is something totally different. They run their own country. They report to the queen, and she gets certain things because they consider royals. But it still doesn't. There's still decisions get ran by Parliament. The queen doesn't make those decisions. Yes, she can influence things, but she don't make them damn decisions over there.
Look,
part of the power structure is the royals can't be a part of the government. They keep that shit separate. So it's not fair to just blame her for everything that happened.
I'm not blaming her. Again, this isn't me blame. What I'm saying is, when you have power, all right, LeBron James, for instance, he's a billionaire. He's a billionaire athlete.
He makes more money a year than the queen.
Huh?
He makes more money a year than the queen.
Now, you don't really believe that statement, do you?
I mean, on paper.
See, I'm glad you said that part. Now, on paper, he might make more money a year than the queen, but there's no way possible for him to make more money a year than the queen, because the queen is the queen, or was the queen. Like, majority of the wealth that the world has, the true wealthy people have their money in trust. When you put your money in a trust, the public don't know how much money you really have. So yes, on paper, it might seem like LeBron James make more money than the queen, but her estate alone is what? What is it? $14 trillion or something crazy like that?
Who said that? Who said that?
Just based on the amount of money and wealth that the country had, her estate was generating.
All the country's wealth is not her wealth. The country is ran by other people too.
Man, okay. If she doesn't have the wealth, if she doesn't have the influence, if she didn't have all these things, what's the point of even having the king and queen?
Because the British Empire has always been structured on their nobles, their royals, their lords. That's how they separate people. That's what their history consisted of. Their great generals brought their generalship. They became admirals because they had money. The queen is just the leader of all that. It's something that they keep, but she does not run that country.
So we're still
she influences the country, but she doesn't run the country.
So she doesn't run it. We're still going by this basis of class, and that's okay because
I didn't say it was okay. It's just a fact. You can't fix a problem unless you're going to address it. The people over in the UK like this structure. They've kept this structure for centuries.
You know what?
They like this structure.
You know what other structure they like for a long time? Slavery. And they kept that around for centuries too.
Well, and this is true. And they benefit from it.
And the
but
Church
you know
of England,
by the same. Go ahead.
Which the queen and now the king is the head of. They allowed that structure. They allowed that structure. They benefited from that structure. They thrive off that structure. They built ridiculous amounts of wealth off of that structure. They pushed on the notion that black people didn't have souls, and you know, therefore they didn't need to be considered as humans off of that structure. So, you know, she's, as far as I'm concerned, her lineage, her and now her son are all part of that. And as long as we
Okay,
continue,
hold it. You said her lineage, like she ain't a part of that. Her family was a part of that. The rulers were a part of that. The Roman Catholic Church was a part of that. Name any religious society in the world now that did not use slaves. You can't. I'll let you research. Get back to me next week. There is no religious society that did not use slaves. And let's not just talk about black slaves, because we just sit down here and a lot of times we just.
oh no, when I said slavery, I'm not specifically just talking about black slaves
all around.
I'm not just isolating black slaves. I'm talking about slavery as a whole. But the slavery that blacks in particular in the past several hundred years they endured was completely different than the slavery that was going on prior to how they changed slavery.
I agree with you. The whole application of it was totally different. The whole transportation of it was totally different. However, slavery was not going on when this young lady was 20, when she was a young lady at 25. Okay, all the stuff
depends
that was
on who you ask.
on, all the territory.
It depends on who you ask. Because last I checked, you know, they human trafficking is still happening. It's just a different it's a different name. That's still slavery. Human trafficking is slavery. That's still
right,
going
but
on rampant throughout the world.
Human trafficking ain't just going on in the UK in
No,
certain
it's not.
places.
That's what I just said.
It's going on all over the world.
But that's still slavery,
isn't it? It's been going on all over. It is, but it's been going on. But you gonna blame her for that?
I blame the elites for that. Because at the end of the day, you know, you need wealth in order to make stuff like that happen and continue. You know, it's a big money game.
You do, but she's not the only one of the elites. But now we getting off topic, and then we done lost Aaron here. He sit down there just listening to snipe at each other. My question for because I got off topic with this too. I had a question about I was going to say something about the parents. And one of the things when you try to press on with trying to pass that wisdom on to your kids, you want your kids to be able to do stuff for themselves, as Aaron said. But you have to keep on pounding that knowledge into them. You can't make them or force them to ingest that knowledge and use it. But you have to like keep trying to find new ways to get it through to them in different ways. And as a parent, that's your responsibility to try to do that. Unless you're a piece of shit parent and don't care what they learn. But we're gonna get to, because we sniped about the Queen, and I regret her passing. All right. Welcome to King Charles III, the longest waiting heir to the throne. He had to wait 70 years. He did. He had to wait 70 years. Nobody ever waited that long. You know, and his son, the prince, is 40 years old. How long he gonna have to wait? And then his
20.
son, that's 93, yo. That's a long time. And then his son is 9. I know he hoped.
His mother lived to be 96. So at minimum, he gotta get to 90. His dad lived to be 98. He gonna reach 90. He's gonna reach 90. They got things to make sure that they stick around till at least 90. I'm surprised his mother passed at 96. I thought she was gonna go ahead and make it to 100.
I thought she was gonna make it to 100 too. Now, with that being said, let's get to the who's to blame question. Who do you blame for society passing on all the problems to the youth to fix in future generations? Climate change, education, social security, technology, the economy, the debt. Who do you blame the fact that these people think it's okay to just pass this shit on. No, fuck that. I'm going first. I
Okay.
blame the government. All right. I blame all them people that's going to sit the fuck down there, know something is a problem, know you can fix the problem. That meal may not be a palatable meal, but it's still a meal or a pill you got to swallow because you helped create it. Problems don't get better if you leave them alone. They just get worse. So I blame the government, the ones that just want to pass it and not fix it because it's less of a headache. Bastards. Okay, go ahead, guys. That's Melvin's rant.
Well, I mean, the way you
And
frame
that's not all the politicians, just the bastards. Okay, go ahead. I'm
it, how
sorry.
do you determine which ones those are?
How do I determine the ones? This
Yeah.
is what I look for. When they go to vote on something, you hire people to go do economic studies on it, to look at something before you vote. This is why time is necessary for them to vote on things, to look at what the effect is going to be. And when it's time for you to vote, because it may go against your constituents, you may give it a no, or the real bastards, they'll recuse themselves from the vote and won't have an opinion because they don't want to tell their constituents that they've wrong, and they don't want the people to see that they voted for that. Bastards. Stand by your vote. Okay, go ahead.
I was going to say the way you framed the question, you kind of made it seem like that we had to say it was society's fault for for the trickle down effect. But
I have faith you're gonna find a way to make it the parents' fault.
exactly, it's the I blame because at the end of the day, no matter what any outside forces do, we still have individual choice to teach our kids and raise our kids up. And when we do that in our household, then our kids can influence their friends, or when their friends come over our house, we can influence their friends and instill the knowledge and wisdom that we was talking about this whole time in the beginning of the show before we got to overseas, which has nothing to do with the show. But we could do that next week because I see Ruben is very passionate about that. But I blame the parents though, because at the end of the day, everything stems from the household. Like all the other things that you were saying, society, like global warming and climate change and all that other stuff, we can do what little bit we can do to change that and fix that within our household and raising up our kids in the right way.
Ruben.
So I agree with both of y'all. I blame the parents, I blame the government, but I also blame the individual. So this is one of those trifectas for me right now because yes, you need to grow up in the right household. Yes, we have governments that are not necessarily doing that what's best for the people, but we also live in a society where we have access to more information than, as far as I can tell, in history. Because of that, we get overloaded with information. So now it's a matter of trying to pick out, what's right and what's wrong. And, misinformation is also rampant, but misinformation has always been rampant. That's
missing information.
That's what the communists use. That's what propaganda is. That being said, we still, if we make the effort, we can find ways to, have the right information to guide us and put us in the right direction, asking for help. Because if somebody wants to gamble, if somebody wants to drink, if somebody wants to party, if somebody wants to do anything outside of like what would be considered doing something productive, they find ways to do it. So why is it that when it's time to do something productive, now all of a sudden, they become a child, they become a baby all over again? No, that same energy you was going to use to go do whatever it is that you shouldn't be doing, use that same energy in mind and brain cells to do something positive. So I agree with both of y'all, but I also put the blame on the individual.
You brought the individual fire here. Be productive. The only thing You could have been the best person that you could have been dealing with people. But as a community, as a group, as a decision-making generation, we let the people down. The generation before us let us down. We could always do more. You're only limited to what you try to achieve. We achieve a lot when we direct our energies together. We're better together than we are apart. I want to thank everybody for joining us for Combustible Elements. I'm Big Mel. I'm joined by Ruben the Monarch and Aaron the Hitman. I look forward to talking to you in the future. Like and subscribe. When I figure out how to get these videos on Spotify, we'll be on Spotify. I look forward to talking to you later. Peace out, everybody. Have a good day.